Kaleb Johnson is having a truly historic season at Iowa, and no one is talking about it. He has the same amount of touchdowns this year as the Hawkeyes offense had in 14 games last year, and he has only played in 9 games so far. He is rewriting the Iowa Hawkeyes record book and could smash a few records set by guys like Shonn and Tavian. This is the story of Iowa's greatest running back. This is the story of Kaleb Johnson. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know who you think wins the Heisman Trophy this year in the comment section below. Kaleb Johnson was born on August 14th, 2003, and grew up in Hamilton, Ohio. Growing up, Johnson had an extremely close relationship with his grandmother, who would pass away when he was 14 years old. It was an extremely mentally taxing time for Kaleb and his family, and they would pull him out of organized sports to focus on academics to make sure he didn't spiral down the wrong path. It was a major turning point in Kaleb's life. Johnson was always an extremely friendly kid who loved people and would express it by hugging people. This would lead to some complaints getting back to his family though. When Johnson was on the road with his grandparents one day, he saw a billboard of people playing football and knew he wanted to play it one day. His grandparents said as long as he kept his grades up, he could play. When he first started playing youth football, he would be put on the defensive line, although he was younger and smaller than everyone else. He would get destroyed, usually having more mud on the back of his jersey than the front of his jersey, due to getting pancaked so much. Yet he fell in love with the game, having the time of his life, although he was not that good. When the coaches moved him to running back, his grandfather focused on helping him get better at the game he loved. His grandfather played an important role in his life as he was his main male influence, due to his biological father being absent and his mother having him at the age of 17. His grandmother was his main fan while she was alive. His mother told Hawk Central, "After my mom passed, his whole demeanor changed, and he really is doing this for us, the family, because we know he could do it. He has the skills and the abilities." Johnson would eventually return to playing organized sports, becoming a star for the football team at Hamilton High School. Kaleb would not get to put up crazy numbers at Hamilton because he had to split carries with another great running back, Shonn, who would also be a first-team All-State player at running back in 2020. As a freshman, Johnson would rush for 631 yards and 3 touchdowns, while as a sophomore, he rushed for 878 yards and 9 touchdowns, finishing honorable mention All-Conference. Heading into his junior year, Johnson would be named team captain and helped lead Hamilton to the playoffs, rushing for 786 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground on 114 carries, averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. He would be named first-team All-Conference, but his senior season would be even better. Johnson would rush for 1,004 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground, leading Hamilton back to the state playoffs, and being named first-team All-State. He also finished as an AP Scholar and Honor Roll student throughout his high school career. Johnson's success was fueled by his family saying, "I really want to do it for her, his grandmother, because I knew she would be proud of me." So it just feels like with me, always having that in the back of my mind and always thinking about the results I could have, if I just keep doing what I need to do. He totaled almost 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns on the ground during his high school career. Coming out of high school, Kaleb Johnson was a 3-star recruit according to 24/7 Sports Composite, who was the 35th best running back and 435th best player in the 2022 recruiting cycle. Johnson felt he was not a complete back coming out of high school, saying, "I'm way more fundamental technique-wise, focused on the little things I have to do, because in high school I was just running the ball, playing football. Now it's really serious and all the little stuff, picking up pass blocking." He earned 17 different Division I offers from the likes of Cal, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, and West Virginia. He would never get an offer from Ohio State, even though he grew up an hour and a half outside Columbus. Even if Ohio State had come calling and offered him, Johnson does not think he would have gone there, explaining, "I feel like even if they offered me, I wouldn't have went, because I want to beat them. A lot of people want to play against them because they're the top dog, so that's what I want to do." Johnson actually almost ended up at California Berkeley instead of Iowa, with his high school coach saying, "It was June going into his senior year and he had taken a visit to Berkeley, and he had called me later in the evening. He was super excited and wanted to commit to Cal, and he did, so kind of slowed down his recruiting." His high school coach knew Iowa's offensive line coach, George Barnett, because both had coached at Miami of Ohio from 2014 to 2020. His coach went on to say, "We had similar paths. I had coached at the University of Indianapolis, and George had coached at the University of Indianapolis before he went to Miami. When George went to Iowa in 2021, he asked about Kaleb. He had already committed to Cal. I just thought he should look at Iowa with the running offense Iowa had with Coach Kirk Ferentz. There's no better mentor out there than Coach Ferentz. And then have the trust I have with George Barnett. I said to Kaleb, let's go out on a visit. I know you're committed to Cal, but I think this is a visit you need to take. They would attend the Penn State game and Johnson would fall in love with Iowa, flipping his commitment to the Hawkeyes that Monday. When Johnson arrived, there was already a lot of excitement around him due to his ability on the football field, but also due to how smart he was. He would originally start by studying informational technology with the goal of someday neutralizing internet hackers. Today his major is enterprise leadership. When Johnson arrived, there were some question marks when it came to Iowa's running back room, as Tyler Goodson had just gone undrafted and signed with the Green Bay Packers. To get early playing time, Kaleb would compete with Gavin Williams, Shonn Williams, and Jazion Patterson. Johnson spoke on the competition saying, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but they're like frenemies to me. We're competing for the same thing. We all want to play. I feel like I have the advantage because of my height and how fast I am. I could catch out of the backfield. I'm going in confident knowing that they're not better than me. I just need to go in there and show it and proving it. Johnson would lead the team in rushing with 151 carries for 779 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging 5.2 yards per carry as a freshman, which was a single-season freshman record at the school. Entering his sophomore year, there was even higher expectations for Kaleb, as many expected him to take the next step and become a true feature back in the offense. Things would not go as planned as he would deal with injuries, missing 3 games, and struggled only having 1 rushing attempt go over 60 yards in his return, and finished without a carry against Northwestern. He finished the year rushing for 463 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 4 yards per carry as Shonn Williams took over the primary running back role. Reflecting on last season, Johnson said, staying positive and always having confidence in myself. So that really hurt me, but at the same time, it gave me a learning lesson not to take things for granted and always be appreciative of what you do. So far this season, Johnson is quietly having a historic season, taking a backseat to Boise State's Ashton Jeanty, who is taking all the headlines right now. Johnson would miss the first half of the Illinois State game due to, according to Hawkeyes Forum, a violation of team rules, yet he would still rush for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 carries. He then rushed for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns in their loss to Iowa State. Against Troy, he had 173 yards and 2 touchdowns, while against Minnesota, he had 206 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. His first roadblock of the season would come against Ohio State, when he finished with 86 yards and a touchdown on 15 carries, but bounced back against Washington, rushing for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also having 22 receiving yards and a touchdown. While he would only have 98 rushing yards and a touchdown against Michigan State, on the ground, through the air, he finished with 4 receptions for 49 yards. Against Northwestern, he had 109 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, while this past weekend he gashed my Badgers for 135 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Through 9 games this year, Kaleb Johnson has 1,279 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns, averaging 7.5 yards per carry and 142.1 rushing yards per game. He is rewriting the Iowa Hawkeyes record book, tying Sean Green and Nate Keating for the Hawkeyes single-season scoring record this past weekend. Johnson has 20 touchdowns in 9 games this season, and to put that in comparison, the Hawkeyes had 20 offensive touchdowns in 14 games last year. Johnson's 20 touchdowns tied 2008 Doak Walker Award winner Sean Green for the most in Iowa history. Green, who finished 6th in the Heisman voting, was a consensus All-American and set the record in 13 games. Johnson has 20 rushes of 20 yards plus, with the next best this year being 15, which is held by Jeanty. The most anyone has ever had in the last 5 seasons was 23. Minnesota head coach PJ Fleck told The Athletic, when you look at Kaleb Johnson and what he's been able to do, I think he's one of the most underrated backs in all of the country. He's having a historic season at a school known for running the ball, is breaking Iowa records 9 games into the season, and is not getting any national attention for any awards. It's ludicrous, and that's coming from a rival fan. When asked about the Heisman, rather than boasting about how he deserved to be in the conversation, he just shrugged his shoulders, saying, I'm a humble person. Whatever goes out there, and whatever is said, is said. What Kaleb Johnson is doing is truly amazing this year, and should be talked about more. I love Ashton Jeanty, and I hope he wins the Heisman at Boise State, but Johnson should at least be in the conversation, not having the 17th highest Heisman odds behind Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Drew Aller. I want to end this video from my favorite quote from Kaleb Johnson. At the end of the day, you've got yourself, like all the time. Like no matter what happens, you always have yourself. But what do you think? Should Kaleb Johnson be in the Heisman conversation? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.